Welcome to Between Two Pastries, a not-so-typical nutrition podcast. Nicole and Annie are licensed and registered dietitians. Join them as they discuss hot nutrition topics, challenge popular beliefs, and have a blast doing it. Here are your hosts, Nicole and Annie.
Welcome to Between Two Pastries. This is Nicole.
Hey everyone, it's Annie.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about the food logging apps, fitness apps, in particular MyFitnessPal.
Oh, Apple Watches. That's another
Apple
one.
Watches. That's a good
or
one.
like, what's that one the straight one? What is that?
Oh, the Fitbits.
Fitbits. Yeah, that was hot and trendy for a hot minute.
But there's Lose It. There's Livestrong.
Honestly, I try to avoid them at all costs. So like people tell me they have it, and then they like want me to download the app, and I'm like, no. Yeah.
So I think that we're bringing it up just because of a couple things. So I actually have a lot of my clientele, use it initially for just bringing awareness to some things, whatever it is that we're looking at. It really is truly a tool. It's not something to rely on, and the way that they outlay it, it's not like you want to be so attached to the numbers. And I think that that's one thing that we wanted to also kind of check in about is, number one, we don't want to be so attached to like the micros,
macros.
Right. Like,
I hate that word.
That's the whole thing. Because again, it's really about getting more in tune to how eating feels to your body than anything else. Yeah. So again, there's different reasons why sometimes a client wants to log for a while, and then it's helpful for them because they're like, wow, I didn't realize I'm not eating enough protein, or I've noticed that there are certain days where I feel worse than others, and now we're putting things into connection. Okay, good. There's sometimes rhyme and reason for it. The problem where there can be a problem is I'll have the client that says to me, oh, it looks like I'm eating too much sugar.
That's because the app tells them they are.
Right. And this is where, first of all, these apps can create eating disorders. And I've had people who say, I can't log because I start getting crazy. And it's like, well, that's exactly what we don't want you logging. So we just want to talk about that piece for a minute. So when that whole part of the app says, and there's so many things.
I know.
So it's like, first of all, it's the whole sugar thing. You're eating too much sugar. Or the thing that I don't like, I think probably the most, is the confusion around when people throw in their exercise.
Yes.
And then they use specific words such as earned. You've earned calories. No, people, you do not exercise to earn your calories. You exercise because it makes your body feel really good.
Right. You exercise because, like,
you're burning off stress, or you just want to go for a walk, or you really actually enjoy a spin class, or
right. And so you do this exercise, and there's nothing you earn. You earn money because you do a job. You don't earn food,
and you have bills to pay
because you exercise or eat a certain way. Like,
you
come on,
eat
people.
Food because it's what we need to do to live.
Right.
We don't
and it doesn't matter what
food.
the food.
Food is never a reward.
I always
ever.
have to listen to someone in my week say, I didn't do X exercise or activity, so I can't have that food. And I'm like, no, bring it on, man. Like,
it doesn't work that way.
Guess what? I'm eating that food, and there's no weight gain here.
Right,
so,
of course.
And that's not to, it's not an ego coming out. It's more like you don't have to fear weight gain because you're not logging or because you're not eating X foods or whatever.
That's right.
I don't know. I just Nicole has her people log, and I think that does bring awareness, and I don't even go there with my I have
and
them
that's okay
like
too.
in an email here. You just tell me a couple things about what you're eating at different meals, and that's it. Do you want me to log? No. I don't want you to touch it.
Right.
Because I've noticed, and obviously I work a lot more with eating disorder people, I've just noticed so much more shame coming out of it. Or it's this weird, like, oh, well, my app, whatever app says I can only do blah, blah, blah. So, or my watch says, I'm not fit today because I didn't work out. And you're like, is this real life?
Right.
Like, your watch told you something and you listen.
Right.
So when your watch tells you to jump out the window and, gouge your eyes out, we're just going to do it.
Right.
Like, that's the piece that really blows my mind.
Right.
And so I always steer clear of them. And I think so much of it is because, like, you have to remember, like, well, let's talk about MyFitnessPal. It's a totally generalized equation or algorithm that they're using.
Oh, first and foremost, and that's one of the things too. Like, I don't have every client log. In fact, it's a rarity that I ask them to.
Yeah.
Most people just kind of want to.
They do.
But I always feel it's fine as long as we're using it as a teaching tool for whatever it is we're trying to look at together.
When you can always tell when it's not good for someone.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And for sure then, we're not going to have them do it because we specifically want them to remove themselves from that. So yes, but there is an issue with how it's laid out. The algorithm for sure. In fact, case in point, had another client who, again, he is just a really active guy, and he's just like, oh, I just want to bring awareness to what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And he really wanted a log. And again,
sure.
The guy's probably like 65 years old. I'm not really concerned about an eating disorder here. He just he's just doing it because he's actually kind of nerdy. Like, he wants to understand.
Yeah, people like those.
Yeah. But he
analytics.
specifically said, he was like, wow, so I put in X, Y, and Z, and it's telling me that I only need this many calories. And I'm like, no, you literally are doing 2 hours of intense tennis each day, 6 days a week. You actually need a little bit more than that, you know? So it's like, and I said, MyFitnessPal doesn't understand how much muscle you have. I do, because that's something we're looking at.
You test it, right.
And so it's like, there's so many faults,
Well, I think all these apps just assume everyone needs to lose weight.
Sure.
Everyone's body is okay.
Right.
Like,
and the language there, that's what's so upsetting about it. So getting back to the whole sugar thing, I think what's important to note is that one of the flaws about this particular app is just that it doesn't separate or differentiate between having a piece of fruit and having a Snickers bar. It's not looking at table sugar versus fruit.
Right.
So
I agree. Or lactose.
Right.
Chocolate milk.
That's right. So there is an issue there, and so it's just a matter of being really aware of that the sugar intake that it's telling you is not necessarily added.
It makes you feel like crap.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
The little frowny faces and little smiley faces, and it's just, eating is not calculated.
No.
Like, if you look at, obviously you all have heard me talk about this before, but like toddlers, and they eat when they're hungry and they stop when they're full. Look at your pets. Like, they do the same thing, and they eat to survive. They eat what they need. They eat what they want. I don't know. I struggle with all of the rigidity around it, and how calculate. Okay, it's lunchtime, and so I get this many calories because the app says, and it's just like,
no, that's not cool at all.
You're totally screwing up your body.
Well, and that's just it too. That's just it.
And I sometimes don't even buy into some people who've said, well, I just want to know what I'm doing, and you can just kind of feel out, like, pull those people out and say, you're doing this because you don't want to lose that control.
Sure, sometimes it can be that way.
You can sense that from some people. It's a way to control, even though maybe it's not an eating disorder. There's something disordered going on when you're too nervous to listen to your body.
Right. I mean, if you refuse to do it that way, and you can only eat what you're logging, then that's a problem.
Right. Or we have to log celery sticks. Do we? Really?
Oh my god!
I don't know. 6 croutons?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen chewing gum.
Yeah. Well, that's true too. But it's also really funny too, because people will like make a meal and they're like, oh, I just made this casserole and I don't know how to count it. So then you'll get they'll pull up like the bank of casseroles that are available, and it's like Susie's casserole.
Right.
And I'm like, who's Susie?
Who's
This
Susie?
is, like I'm working with, Jenny or something. Who's Susie?
Who's Susie?
And we just have to laugh about it. And they're like, well, I thought it was the closest to what I'm probably doing, which I think is funny.
Oh, it blows my mind with what people think their mixed combination foods equal.
Oh, that too.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it is
super
funny,
under or super over.
I agree. Yeah,
so interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. So again, I think what we're trying to just say is that these types of applications can be a useful tool if you're using it to learn something.
Yeah.
But it's not. We don't want people to take it as gospel. Or rely on it and become so dependent on it that they can't do anything without it, that kind of thing too. But also not taking it as that it's the sole truth, like what it's telling you is exact. And again, we don't like the language that they choose to use.
No.
So we just need to be super careful about that as well.
One of the things I like to challenge certain clients with or patients, and I challenge all of the listeners to do this as well, because I guarantee 99 to 100% of everyone listening has an Apple Watch on or a Fitbit or maybe logs via app on their phone.
Right.
Can you take that watch off for a day?
Yeah.
And this goes with not only the food apps and watches for food and stuff like that, but also don't count your steps. Don't wear it when you're running or doing activity.
Right.
Can you lose it?
Right.
Test how okay you are, and if it's okay, I did it for a day, now the watch is back on. Do it for a week. Can you get away from, my watch says I did 8.6 miles and I'm supposed to do 9. Are you okay just being done?
Well, that's just it too, and people again will use that as like a reward system.
Yes.
Like, I haven't moved enough today, so I can't watch a program, or I can't, you know what I mean? Like just something like that, where it also like then depends on what kind of a day they're going to have or how they feel about themselves at the end of the day.
Right.
So these things can start getting super dangerous at the same time too.
I've seen them more dangerous.
Yeah, I think so too.
Than not.
Yeah, I think so too. So, but I think what also is a little scary, and again, I don't mean to pick on MyFitnessPal, but I'm going to.
Yeah, it's easy one.
Is just because of the fact that, like, even when you pull up the app, there's constantly something about either macros or some diets. Or somebody talking specifically about,
oh, they're awful.
Training or whatever, and it really is awful.
It's a lot of misinformation too. When I used to have a lot of people using that, and so you have an app so you can like log in and look at what they're doing. And again, that's a pain in the ass, so you might as well just not appeal to it.
Yeah, right.
So anyways, you get stuck in these discussion boards, and I think I'm on their email threads too, and you look at some of this and you're like, this is wrong. This is like going to cause eating disorders if this gets put out there.
That's the thing. This
is not okay.
It's one thing to bring awareness to someone with maybe how active they are in a day. And if they are trying to go ahead and move more in a day, that's one thing. It's another thing too if you're trying to teach somebody about, getting in a particular balance.
Right.
And I'm not talking about macros necessarily.
No.
I'm talking about just balance, and it can be a nice teaching tool with because we have it in front of us, then it's like a picture. We can talk about the picture. We can talk about how they felt about the picture, like as far as how they felt physically during the course and connecting the two. Right. But then it's another thing, when we're talking about what you just mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I started thinking, obviously this years ago when this all started coming out, I started thinking, well, maybe, for athletes, Livestrong would be better, because I just assumed it was
like had a better
calculation for athletics.
Yeah.
No,
not at all.
You assume because it's Livestrong, and it just that language ties to an athlete, and it's terrible.
Yeah. Disappointing.
It's super disappointing. I think overall. I mean, I would say all of these apps have a really good recipe
base or whatever.
Database. But again, if you make a casserole and you have a square or two of it isn't that just good enough and you're full?
Right.
Like,
right. It's
again,
connecting that, not getting so hung up on those
or
damn macros.
That was 19 grams of protein and I've had 280 grams of carbs, so now that's it for the, and you're like,
no, it's not supposed to be this way. It's just not.
No, like when I look at someone who reports what they're eating, it's like, okay, I see some dairy, I see carbs at the appropriate times, I see protein at appropriate times, or an imbalance of this, and we need more of this or whatever. With micronutrients and macronutrients. But this whole macro movement is so frustrating.
It's mind-blowing is what it is, because again, it gives somebody another diet, another thing outside of them to focus on, and to use as a gauge of how well they're doing, versus just like,
well, and then the app tells them they're doing well with it,
of course,
not well with it.
No, that's a good call.
You know,
you're getting feedback from there then too.
I had, I think I've shared the story where I had a high schooler who was so upset that, you know, she, for health class, which is obviously not taught by anyone who should be teaching it, is, you know, having them log on MyFitnessPal and to see if they're quote unquote healthy.
Ooh.
Right? And
that's
so this
scary.
kid was so upset. She's like 15 years old. Like, you know, it told me I wasn't eating enough sugar, and now I'm hearing you say that it's okay if I want to have sugar. But then if I log that, then my app is going to tell me that that I'm a loser. And I'm like, well, no, you're not. I'm like, stop logging. Well, I have to do it for school. No, you don't. No, you don't. Just don't log it then.
Yeah.
Like, don't. If it's bringing this much shame to your life,
yeah, that's really something,
and making you feel badly about it,
wow.
and it was, you know, she was either track or field hockey, I don't remember, but something active. She's also a growing body. Why are we having these kids?
I know.
We've had college kids who've been interns, and like they have to log what they're eating, and you're like, why? Mm-hmm. Why is this a thing? Mm-hmm. Why is, speaking of, I don't know, this is kind of unrelated, but I got a consult today for severe obesity, and I'm like, why is that still a thing?
I know. Don't get us going down that conversation again.
So it's just, the apps, in my opinion, bring more shame than anything. Again, it can be a good resource for awareness.
Right. But I think that's just, you know, kind of on that note, and as we're ending our pod, that we just want to kind of mention that to everybody. If you use it, please don't take it verbatim.
No.
You know, please don't feel something about yourself because of the because of what the app is telling you. And you know,
you are more than an app.
You're more than an app, and find your purpose for, if you're going to use it, what is that purpose, and leave that purpose. You know what I mean? Like, separate yourself from that, and just use it as that tool. So, anyway. All right, guys.
That's all.
Bye.
Have questions you want to hear discussed on the show? Find us on Facebook or visit betweentwopastries.com and drop us a line. Want to support the show? Find us on Patreon for exclusive content. If you love the show, find us on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review.